Welcome back to Split the Party. Once again, I'm your host, Steve Osmond, and today I'm going to talk about a couple of lighter games that I've really fallen in love with. The company is Game Right, and they've got a lot of little lighter, fair, easy to pick up and learn games. The two of them that I really enjoy are Sushi Go and Gubs. They're both very different styles of game from each other. Gubs, for instance, it's a draw a card, play a card game. Fairly quick going around the table. You never really know who's going to win. You can feel like you're doing really well, and then everything's pulled out from under you. Sushi Go is a drafting game where you are constantly drafting cards for points as you go through. So let's start with Gubs. The whole point is to have these guys, the Gubs. At the end of the game, when you have gotten the letters G, U, and B drawn from the deck, the game is over. Whenever anybody draws a card that's got this little lightning bolt symbol on it, they must play it immediately. And when these three cards have been drawn, everybody stops, play is over. Whoever has the most Gubs in their play area in front of them that are either free, which means they're just freestanding on their own, or protected under one of the barricades, then if they have the most, they win. There are also traps in the game which allow you to basically make Gubs worth nothing. You're trapping them and they're just not worth anything anymore. Trapped Gubs don't count for points. If there is a tie, there's a card in the game called the Esteemed Elder. If one of the people with the tie has the Esteemed Elder, they automatically win. But for the most part, you're just trying to get Gubs out there and protect them so that other people can't take them. Where the game gets to be fun is you don't have to play any cards from your hands. You can play as many as you want, and you don't have a hand size limit. So you may want to start putting Gubs out there, and you've got 4 or 5 of them, and some of them are protected. Well, there are cards in here that will allow somebody to either destroy all of your Gubs, or steal all of your Gubs, or all of your Gubs get shuffled back into the deck. So you may feel that you are in a position of power. I'm winning this game right now, and then everything gets taken away from you by either a draw from the deck or a play from somebody's hand. So you have to be a little bit more conservative and careful about when you play and how much you play, how much of your hand that you tip so that people can see what you've got. So even for a lighter fair game like this, it still lends a little bit of strategy. It does have a lot of randomness to it because it's card drawing, but you can still kind of plan ahead how you want to handle things. It's when it really gets down to the wire, when the G and the U or any 2 of the letters are out, that you start feeling a little bit more erratic and a little bit more hurried because I need to make these decisions. At any point, that last card could come up and I could lose. So the game sees a general shift from the beginning where you're slowly building your hand and casually, very conservatively putting Gubs out and putting cards into play, to the end where people are racing to get as much out there and stealing, and cards are shifting around the table constantly. And once you become comfortable with the game and all the players are comfortable, it's a fairly high-paced, really fun game. Sushi Go. Sushi Go actually has, I think, a deeper element of strategy to it. So you deal out a certain amount of cards to all the players, depending on, different amount depending on how many players are playing. So say we all have 7 cards. Our cards are made up of the ones that you see in front of you here. There are chopsticks, dumplings, sashimi, tempura, wasabi, salmon nigiri, along with egg nigiri and squid nigiri, maki rolls, and pudding. Each of these cards score differently. For instance, sashimi, if you have 3 of them in front of you face up, you get 10 points. If you have less than 3, you don't get any points. So you need to make sure that you're getting those out in sets of 3. The trick to the game is that the way to get those cards in play, you start with your hand of 7 cards, everyone places one card face down, and then passes their hand. After they've all passed their hand, they flip the card face up. You've got 1 card in play. Now, everybody knows what everybody has put up for their first card. You pick up the other player's, the hand that has just been passed to you, you've got 6 now. You put 1 card face down and repeat that until you've played all 7 of your cards face up. So there's a good amount of strategy to, like, what am I going to try and draft? As things are going around, maybe they go around and I notice there's a lot of dumplings and nobody's playing dumplings. I'm going to go ahead and play those because dumplings give me more points the more of them I have in play. Or I may put out a sashimi thinking I'm going to get 3 of those and get 10 points, and there might not be another sashimi out there. Or we may all reveal our cards and everybody has one. It also allows people to kind of block you. The person in front of you might see, okay, you're a little bit ahead of me in points and you are going for tempura or you're going for sashimi, or I think this is what's going to benefit you, so I'm going to what's called hate draft. I'm going to hate draft you, I'm going to take this card, and it's not necessarily the best card for me, but it's the best card for you, and you can't have it. So there's a little bit more competition in the drafting, and it's a really interesting element to use drafting as the entirety of the gameplay. And I know there are other games that do this as well. I really like this one because the game's about 15 minutes long. You play a single game in about 15 minutes, and then you can turn around and play it again. You can move on to something else. I like to think of these games as palate cleansers. They're a lot of fun to play in between more weighty and intense games. If you've got a little bit of time in between, maybe some people went to get food, break out Sushi Go or break out Gubs, and you've got a really fun, light little game that you can play in between, kind of calm everybody down before they get into another game that's a little bit more intense. So I encourage everybody who's got a decent collection of games to own something like this. Maybe these don't necessarily sound like the games for you. Gamewright does have a lot of other fantastic games. Zeus on the Loose is another favorite of mine. But it's something that everybody should try and add to their collection. First of all, like I said, it gives you the palate cleanser. It also helps bring people who are newer to games and children into the idea of playing board games, and it helps sort of bring them into the fold and whet their palate and whet their appetite for things like this. So I think these are definitely the kinds of games that everybody should be looking at, finding one or two that they really enjoy, and I have a handful of them, but these are my favorites. So check out Sushi Go and Gubs by Gamewright. But that's all I got for today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Duo Bus Design, Excelsior Games and Comics, and Sound G Entertainment. And as always, I'll see you in the Nerdverse.